Hello, welcome to the 2013 Hundie Challenge. Today we're going to be discussing Reno 911 by John Barbasol. Dee-doo-dee-doo-doo, dee-doo-doo-doo-doo-dee-doo-doo-doo, dee-doo-dee-doo-doo, dee-doo-doo-doo-dee-doo-doo-doo. This was an easy book, one of those fast reads as opposed to a long read that I've talked about ad nauseum in the past. Double-spaced small pages. I always appreciate that, folks. You'll come to appreciate it too if you ever take on this challenge. As for the subject matter, it's set in the 30s. I'm kind of an aficionado of the 30s because, shameless plug, my forthcoming novel, Brain Eater Jones, is also set in the 30s, and so I kind of appreciate all of that slang and that sort of thing from that era. So this was real enjoyable. You got a couple of good instances of that where I'm now boned up enough on the slang that I knew what they were talking about in almost every case, where they start busting out applesauce, which means awesome. And there's a really good one. Someone was like, they're talking about the mother thinks the one woman is pregnant, and she's like, "Did you miss the second period?" And the woman's like, "Yeah, somebody took our seats at the stadium." So, sorry, I have a dirty mind. What can I tell you? This was a slight book. I don't know why it was on this list. I find myself saying that more and more. I'm starting to challenge the wisdom of the modern library people. We've already discussed on this series before how little they seem to actually care about the quality of their books as opposed to the fact that it was published by the modern library. But, it's the list we have, so it's what I'm going through for now, and we can go from there. Basically, the most interesting character in this novel is a bootlegger named Al Greco, and that's not his real name. His real name was something, Tony something. And he was an amateur boxer who was billed as his fights were so beautiful, like that Spanish painter El Greco. So they started billing him as Al Greco. Unfortunately, Al did not have a lot of the narrative dedicated to him, and most of the narrative was dedicated to this buffoon, this alcoholic buffoon, Julian English. I used to work in a substance abuse clinic, so I do appreciate more of these novels than I thought. Old-timey novels, especially, I find them addressing alcoholism, like Brideshead Revisited. There's a couple others, nothing else to spring into mind. But this was, definitely analyzing alcoholism. And basically, Julian is... What does he sell? He sells Cadillacs. And he borrowed like $20,000 from this Irish guy, Riley. And just kind of, I've talked before also, I find myself repeating myself on all of these videos, about the imp of the perverse, that sometimes you just feel like something's whispering in your ear telling you to do something stupid, and you normally don't. Well, Julian, being a drinker as he is, has that imp of the perverse on his shoulder telling him to throw a drink into Harry Riley's face. So he does, and being as it was a highball full of ice, he gives the guy a black eye, and he had no real purpose for it, and he owed the guy $20,000. And being as this was the 30s, and, we were starting to move along as a country, but not wholly, since he assaulted an Irish guy, the entire Catholic community in this town is now kind of leery about doing business with him. That is something I should talk about. I did like about this book that it takes place in Pennsylvania, which is where I live. So it was really neat hearing them talking about, Reading and Easton and, taking the train to Philadelphia and all that kind of thing. That's like a breath of fresh air to me, because so many of these novels are set either in like rural country England or like down south somewhere like bumblefuck Alabama. So it's nice to read something where it's in Pennsylvania, where it's like, well, it's still the 30s, but at least people are kind of like not as shitty to each other as they were in other places and times. That being said, Julian's life kind of goes off the rails after he doesn't quite punch, but almost insultingly tosses a drink in this guy's face and gives him a shiner. Like, you almost get the impression it would have been more or less emasculating if he'd really just hauled off and beat his ass. But anyway, Julian just keeps making worse and worse mistakes and not uncoincidentally drinking and drinking and drinking more over the course of the next few days. He gets in a fight with a one-armed World War I veteran. And as expected, the entire town kind of turns against him because he beat up a guy with only one arm. And he cheats on his wife more than once. Again, just kind of listening to that imp of the perverse. Alcohol's a bad thing, kids. It's why Hemingway killed himself. It's why Poe killed himself. And it's why Julian English fucking killed himself. So, being as he's a Cadillac dealer, he goes down and turns on his car and drowns in the carbon monoxide poisoning in his garage, or as it's cleverly spelled out in one of the passages in here, the garage. Like I said, not a bad book. I like to read a book that was set in PA. Kind of slight. Don't know what to tell you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.